I thought my fiancé's luxury was all our doing, until I traced the money trail back to my own bank account and realized I had been framed. I never questioned James's generosity. From the moment he whisked me away on that surprise trip to Monaco, 5-star hotels, gourmet dinners, and a shopping spree I'd only dreamt of, I believed we were destined for opulence. As his fiancé, I thought I deserved a taste of his world: silk sheets, imported wines, and the soft hum of a private yacht beneath our feet. But last weekend, when I logged into my online banking to transfer rent for our new apartment, I froze. My account balance, normally a modest 5-figure sum, had skyrocketed overnight. A single deposit, $2,300,000 USD, labeled investment funds. No memo, no sender name, nothing but the digits blinking at me in neon green. I tapped my phone, heart pounding, and saw James's face on the lock screen, his warm smile, the gentle crinkle at his eyes. My breath caught. He'd never mentioned an investor. I called him, voice shaking. "James, why did I get a $2 million deposit from someone?" In the background, the faint clink of crystal glasses. He smiled, though I could hear confusion. "James, what are you talking about?" "Let me see." He walked into view, phone in hand. His brows knitted when he saw the number. "James, I didn't authorize that." My chest tightened. "Then who did?" He swiped, tapped, and exhaled. "I have no idea." In that instant, the fantasy of our lavish life fractured. If James didn't know who wired $2 million into my account, then someone else was pulling strings. From the shadows, using me as a conduit. That night, I lay awake, mind spinning. I replayed every extravagant purchase. The designer dresses with price tags that made me blush. The bespoke engagement ring James insisted I choose. If he wasn't behind the funds, who was? And more frightening, was I implicated in some elaborate fraud? By morning, I resolved to follow the money. I called my friend and cybersecurity specialist, Marco, to my small home office. He arrived with his laptop, fingers already dancing over the keyboard. "Marco, show me the transaction details." I shared screen and credentials. Marco scrutinized the deposit record. "Marco, the wire came through an intermediary bank in Singapore, routed from an account in the Cayman Islands. Then it swapped through shell accounts in the British Virgin Islands and Luxembourg." He paused. "Wow, that's a sophisticated network." "Is this legal?" Marco, "Not necessarily. Money launderers use these circuits to hide origins. You need to trace the ultimate source." He set up a series of trace routes and subpoena requests, quietly, so no alerts would ping the sender. As Marco worked, I peered at photographs on my desk. James and me, laughing on a bridge in Paris. Me nestled against his shoulder on our yacht. Candlelit dinners in Tuscany. Was it all an illusion? 2 days later, Marco uncovered a name tied to the first shell company, Avellino Capital Partners. No website, no listings, just an obscure mention in a forum for private equity. I searched online and found a single Bloomberg snippet. Avellino's principal, MV, rumored to be a wealthy, reclusive investor funding niche startups. The story said Avellino had a penchant for discretion, never revealing identities. My pulse raced. I texted James under the guise of curiosity. "Have you ever heard of Avellino Capital?" His reply came quickly. "James, no." "Why?" "Got a deposit from a shell in Singapore. Marco says it ties to them." He went silent. Then, "James, let me look into it." His delay felt ominous. I paced my living room, imagining Avellino's prince in the shadows, eloquently tossing millions into my account, enslaving me to unknown whims. That evening we had dinner at our favorite rooftop bistro. The city lights shimmered below as servers placed candles on our table. I forced a smile, but when James glanced at my phone, I saw the truth in his eyes. He was hiding something. Quietly. "James, I need answers." He set down his wine glass, voice steady. "Sarah, I swear I didn't know about that money. Ask me anything." "Did you ever meet anyone from Avellino Capital?" Did you sign any NDA? Were you promised funds? He shook his head. Never. No NDA, no meetings. I've been paying for everything with my account. Loans, credit. I'm broke behind the facade. His confession stung. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I thought I could figure out how to get us there. Invest, flip, profit. I lied to you because I was ashamed. I blinked, heart aching. Then who sent the money? He swallowed. I don't know, but I'm scared, Sarah. Someone else is involved. I feel like a pawn, the turning point. We left the restaurant in silence. In the car, rain splattered against the windshield. I closed my eyes, craving distance from the chaos. But when I opened them, I saw his reflection in the rearview mirror. Haunted, desperate. I realized this wasn't just James's battle. It was ours. Me. We'll fight this together. No more secrets. He reached for my hand. Thank you. I love you. I squeezed back. Let's unmask Avellino Capital and clear our names. That night, I drafted a plan. Deep dive on Avellino Capital. Engage Marco to map every shell. Uncover the MV behind the veil. Financial audit. Retain a reputable forensic auditor to examine my account and flag the fraud. Legal counsel. Hire a white-collar defense attorney in case authorities knock at our door. Surveillance. Quietly follow James's contacts, who introduced him to high rollers, where unusual meetings occurred. Public exposure. Prepare a press strategy to reveal the fraud if we unearth evidence. Protecting our reputations. I sent the outline to Marco and our attorney, Camille Levesque, who immediately replied with resources. As I closed my laptop, I felt the weight of the coming weeks. A high-stakes quest to reclaim our future from unseen puppeteers. In the distance, thunder rolled, a portent of storms to come. Yet for the first time in days, I felt clarity. I would not be a passive victim in a million-dollar lie. I would become the detective, the warrior, the avenger of my own life. Update 1. The next morning, I slipped into a nondescript coffee shop near our apartment, laptop tucked under my arm. James sat in the corner booth, nursing a latte, eyes shadowed by worry. Marco joined us moments later, unpacking his portable drive. Me. Marco, what did you uncover overnight? He opened his laptop, fingers flying. I traced Avellino Capital Partners' shell companies. There are 5 linked entities. 1 in the Caymans, 1 in Singapore, 1 in Luxembourg, and 2 in Cyprus. He pulled up a world map dotted with glowing points. But here's the kicker. Each shell lists a nominee director, but all their signatures match one digital fingerprint, an encrypted PGP key registered to an email address, he said, clicking to reveal the address, Mr. V@seacove.net. James, leaning forward. Mr. V? Marco. Could be an alias. I cross-referenced the domain. seacove.net is a Cayman ISP. The email was registered 2 months before Grandma's death. My pulse pounded. Someone had prepared this network long before I ever met James. Can you break the key? Marco shook his head. It's salted. I can't decrypt who MV really is, but we can track where they correspond. We need to surveil anyone using that email. Meanwhile, Camille can help us subpoena seacove.net for registration logs. Surveillance and subpoenas. We moved fast. Marco set up a honeypot email, Mr. V@seacove.net, forwarding any incoming messages to his secure inbox. Camille filed legal requests in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Singapore, invoking mutual assistance treaties for financial crime investigations. Meanwhile, I shadowed James discreetly. He had meetings booked at Lumina Investments and Global Growth Forum. One evening, I trailed James to a sleek midtown high-rise. He slipped into an elevator while I ducked into a coffee kiosk across the lobby, craning my neck. 2 well-dressed men emerged from the same tower, one carrying a Cayman Islands business card. They hailed a black-town car with tinted windows. I snapped photos. A text alert pinged on my burner phone. Incoming message from Honeypot. Subject investment terms. I showed the message to Marco on an encrypted call. Me. Read it. Marco. Squinting. It says, funds released once beneficiary confirms blind transfer. Does she know? Attached. A PDF named Sarah Reynolds _confirm.pdf. The implication. They were testing whether I'd confirm the transfer. If I clicked, the network would know I was onto them. I refrained and forwarded the metadata to Camille. Camille, text. This is probable evidence of attempted fraud. I'm drafting a protective injunction against unauthorized transactions, and we'll include these messages in our filing. 2 days later, Marco messaged excitedly. He discovered that one shell, Sea Cove Holdings Limited, shared a virtual office address in London with a boutique art investment firm owned by Victoria Ellis. A quick LinkedIn search showed Ellis as a prominent figure in discreet wealth management, attending the same Monaco event James had proudly posted about. Marco. I'd bet MV is Victoria Ellis, her initials. That fits the profile. High net worth, reclusive, offshore network expert. Me. If that's true, she funded James, knowingly or not, to launder money through my account. James. Let's follow that lead to London. Within hours, Camille arranged a meeting with her London colleague, Gareth Hughes, to serve Victoria a notice and secure her records. Meanwhile, I booked a flight. A week later, I landed at Heathrow and took a black cab to an upscale district near Mayfair. Gareth met me at a discreet cafe. He slid across an envelope containing a London court order. By order of the High Court of Justice, Victoria Ellis must produce documents regarding Sea Cove Holdings Limited and her role in the Shell network. Gareth. She's contesting jurisdiction, but we've got momentum. I've arranged for a secured room in her office building. Once she arrives, we'll have our answers. As dusk fell, I walked to Victoria's office. The marble lobby shimmered under chandelier light. Gareth and a bailiff stood by the elevator. When the doors opened, Victoria stepped out, tall, elegant, wearing an understated designer suit. She noticed me. Victoria, coolly. Ms. Reynolds? I wasn't expecting you. Me. I needed answers. Why did you fund these transfers into my account? Victoria. I haven't funded you personally. Sea Cove Holdings is one of many vehicles I manage for clients. If your fiancé got funds, that was between him and the original benefactor. Me. But your network deposited $2.3 million into my account. Her eyes flickered. I don't see that reflected in my ledgers. Perhaps your fiancé misrouted? Gareth stepped forward, handing her the court order. Ms. Ellis, compliance requires you to produce your transaction logs. She glanced at the document, then nodded curtly. Follow me. Uncovering Victoria's role. Inside her office, we sat at a long mahogany table, as Victoria's compliance officer wheeled in a secure server drive. On Gareth's command, he transferred encrypted logs onto our laptop. Marco dialed in remotely, unpacked them. Marco, voice crackling over speaker. This is it. I see a chain. Funds moved from a private trust in Zurich, linked to Gregory Whitaker's personal account, routed through Sea Cove Holdings, then passed through Avellino Capital's Shell, and finally to your account. Me. So Victoria knowingly processed Gregory's funds. Victoria's facade cracked briefly. She tapped her finger on the table. I was hired to manage the family trust's assets offshore. Gregory retained me under an NDA. I had no idea you'd become a beneficiary. Me. Your NDA won't protect you from fraud. We have court orders, she swallowed. I will comply fully. By midnight, we had digital copies of Victoria's logs, unmasking Gregory's final layer of concealment. I emailed them to Camille and Marco for safekeeping. Our net had closed. The next step. Integrate Victoria's admissions into the final court filings, and arrange for reciprocal enforcement in the UK and Switzerland. As I left the building, cool London air on my face, I felt the tide turning decisively. Gregory's network lay exposed, every shell pierced. Update 2. Back in New York, I convened with Camille, Marco, and Elena at Camille's Manhattan office. Parchment reams and screen monitors surrounded us, each displaying parts of Victoria Ellis's logs, Shell company charts, and our court orders. Camille. With Victoria's testimony, we can amend our petition to include her as a co-defendant in the fraud suit. We'll seek joint liability from Gregory and Ellis for restitution. Me. Let's do it. We need the full scope, every entity and every dollar, on record. Camille outlined our next steps. Amend complaint. File a second amended complaint in probate court, adding Victoria Ellis and Avellino Capital as respondents, alleging common law fraud, civil conspiracy, and breach of fiduciary duty. Joint asset freeze. Extend the freeze order to Avon Securities UK and any accounts linked to Ellis's London shell address. Discovery requests. Serve detailed interrogatories on both Gregory and Ellis, demanding identification of all funds paid into my account and any subsequent transfers. Deposition strategy. Subpoena Victoria for a sworn deposition in London. Depose Gregory in New York, ideally before the next court date in 6 weeks. By the end of the day, Camille's paralegal had drafted the amended complaint, and our filings were en route to the court clerk. That evening, James and I met at our apartment. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes and a pile of unopened mail on the kitchen island. James, quietly. I owe you the truth, Sarah. Me. I'm listening. He took a deep breath. James. Gregory approached me 6 months ago after Grandma's funeral. He said there was money held back for special projects, research grants he wanted us to launch. I believed him, wanted to help you start your foundation. He asked me to open accounts in your name to keep the funds separate from our joint finances. My stomach lurched. Me. He used our relationship to legitimize his shell transfers. He nodded, tears in his eyes. He said once we had everything in place, he'd transfer the money legally, and we'd split it with the charitable foundation we'd talked about. I never saw a contract. He sent it all through those offshore networks. When you confronted me, I panicked and lied. I felt both relief, his honesty, and rage, his complicity. Me. Thank you for telling me. But this implicates you. We need to address your role in court. He trembled. Whatever it takes. Me. We'll handle it together. You'll give your deposition, explain you were misled. He nodded, pained, but resolute. I trust you. 2 days later, we presented James's statement and Gregory's fresh motions to Camille. She incorporated his testimony. Camille. Your fiancé's declaration strengthens our claim. He was an innocent dupe who thought the money was legitimate family funds. That demonstrates Gregory's intentional deception and Victoria's facilitation. The amended complaint was filed under case number 24-CIV-8051. Judge Alvarez scheduled a hearing in 4 weeks on our motion to freeze additional assets and require immediate accounting of all trust activity, deposing Victoria Ellis. Amid paperwork, we prepared for Victoria's London deposition. Marco helped craft precise questions. Who directed Sea Cove Holdings to transfer funds into Sarah Reynolds' account? What documentation did she receive from Gregory Whittaker? When and how did she become aware the funds were illegitimate? What communications exist between her and Gregory and between her and Avellino Capital? Armed with Camille's Hague Convention applications, Gareth arranged for the deposition to take place in Victoria's London office under the supervision of British counsel. I flew back to London with Camille, determined to hold Ellis to account. On the morning of the deposition, Victoria greeted us in her sleek boardroom. Camille, Ms. Ellis, thank you for cooperating. Please state your full name and position. Victoria Ann Ellis, Managing Director, Sea Cove Holdings Limited. The questioning began. Victoria maintained her earlier stance. She was a conduit, not a decision-maker. But under persistent prodding, cracks appeared. Camille, can you produce any written instruction from Mr. Whittaker? Victoria, I received emails, but they were encrypted. I didn't question them. Camille, encrypted by whom? Victoria, Mr. Whittaker's assistant. I believed it was standard protocol. Me, Ms. Ellis, did you ever consult AML anti-money laundering compliance? Were you unaware of suspicious large transfers? She looked at her counsel, eyes darting. Finally, she whispered, Victoria, I have a report, marked privileged, but in hindsight, I should have reviewed it. I trusted Gregory. Her admission confirmed her negligence and deceit. Camille pressed on until evidence of her due diligence report was produced, showing she'd flagged odd wiring instructions, then ignored them. Back in New York, our motion hearing arrived. In Judge Alvarez's courtroom, Ms. Morales argued for extension of the asset freeze to Ellis's entities. She presented the London deposition transcript and due diligence failures. Judge Alvarez, reviewing the evidence, ruled in our favor. Judge Alvarez, given the testimony of Ms. Ellis indicating a knowing or reckless facilitation of fraudulent transfers, the court extends the asset freeze to all entities under Seacove Holdings Limited and Avellino Capital. Further, all responsible parties must produce full accounting within 10 days. A wave of relief washed over the plaintiff's side. Once again, the judge's gavel fell in our favor. That night, James and I celebrated quietly. Over weak champagne, we acknowledged the turning of the tides. He reached across the table, hand trembling. "James, I'm sorry for everything. We're in this together. Today, we shut down another layer of the scheme." As I sipped my glass, I felt the first glimmer of victory, not just for justice, but for our relationship, forged through shared trials. In the coming weeks, we would push for Gregory's deposition, coordinate with Swiss and Cayman authorities to repatriate frozen funds, and move toward the final restitution. The path ahead still held dangers, from legal counterattacks to potential retaliation, but with every shell pierced and every liar unmasked, the million-dollar lies would crumble. Update 3. The morning of Gregory Whitaker's deposition felt charged with anticipation. I arrived at Morales and Bernstein's glass-fronted offices alongside Camille, James, and his family's attorney, Mr. Adler. Gregory strode in with measured confidence, tailored suit, silver cufflinks, that same suave smile, but behind his eyes I glimpsed tension. We settled around the mahogany conference table. A court reporter clicked on the stenograph machine. "Camille, Mr. Whitaker, please state your name and position." "Gregory," coolly. "Gregory Allen Whitaker, sole trustee of the G. Whitaker Family Trust." "Camille, you understand you are under oath?" "Gregory, of course." Camille launched in. "Camille, Mr. Whitaker, did you establish offshore entities, Whitaker Holdings Limited, Avellino Capital Partners, and Seacove Holdings, for the purpose of managing your mother's inheritance?" He cleared his throat. "Gregory, yes, for legitimate estate planning and tax optimization." "Camille, were you the sole beneficiary, or rather the only trustee?" "Gregory, trustee. Beneficiaries are as per Grandma's will." "Camille, then explain why you transferred $8.4 million of her personal savings into those entities without the knowledge or consent of your nieces and nephew, as called for in her will." A flicker of anger crossed his face. "Gregory, those were instructions from my mother. She wanted discretion." James, interjecting, "You've admitted to me you never saw a formal instruction." Gregory, to James, "This is my deposition. Please let the process proceed." Camille nodded and refocused. "Camille, were there any written instructions from your mother regarding these transfers?" Gregory, "No." "Camille, then how do you justify taking complete control of her assets?" Gregory's jaw tightened. He glanced at the sealed envelope I held. A recent letter from Grandma Parker discovered by Marlene in a safety deposit. "Camille, I'll provide this." A letter dated 6 months before her death, instructing equal distributions and prohibiting large, unapproved transfers. She slid the envelope across the table. He opened it, eyes narrowing as he read. Gregory, voice low, "That contradicts my understanding." Camille, "Indeed. So your testimony that Grandma authorized your control is false. You knowingly breached fiduciary duty." A hush fell. I exhaled, heart thumping. His lie exposed. Cross-examination by opposing counsel. Mr. Baines, Gregory's attorney, rose to defend. Mr. Baines, "Mr. Whitaker, you've stated there were no written instructions, yet you claim your mother wanted discretion. Isn't it possible she communicated verbally?" Gregory, hesitant, "Possibly." Mr. Baines, "And you believed that gave you carte blanche to divert millions?" Gregory, "Verbal directives can be valid." Camille, objecting, "Your Honor, hearsay." Judge Alvarez sustained the objection. Gregory backtracked. Gregory, "I may have misinterpreted her wishes." The air crackled. He admitted misinterpretation, an implicit confession to acting without proper authorization. That afternoon, Camille approached me and James in the hallway. "Camille, we have what we need." His admission of no written consent and misinterpretation seals his breach. Tomorrow we'll move for summary judgment on the trust distribution. I nodded, relief flooding through me. But as I turned, I saw Gregory approaching, eyes cold as marble. Gregory, quietly. You'll regret this, Sarah. His threat hung in the air. I met his gaze steadily. Me. I'll see you in court, Uncle Greg. He walked away, shoulders rigid. Fear flickered in my chest, but resolve steadied me. 2 days later, we convened for the trust distribution hearing. Judge Alvarez presided again. The courtroom was packed, family, media, and interested onlookers. My parents sat together in the gallery, their faces pale with worry. Camille rose to present the motion for summary judgment. Camille, Your Honor, given Mr. Whitaker's admissions under oath and the absence of valid written instructions, there is no genuine issue of material fact. We move that the court enforce immediate distribution of trust assets equally among named beneficiaries, M's, Reynolds, Miss Parker, and Mr. Whitaker's son, according to Grandma's will. She laid out the facts with precision. The will, the letter, the depositions, the frozen assets now numbering over $9 million. Baines countered with objections about ambiguities in verbal directives and adverse reliance. But Judge Alvarez was unmoved. Judge Alvarez, it is the court's duty to honor the decedent's written will and codicils. Absent unequivocal written revocation, any oral claims to the contrary are insufficient. The motion is granted. Assets to be distributed forthwith. The gavel sounded. Gasps and whispers spread. Tears welled in Claire's eyes. I blinked back my own. In the days that followed, the bank and trust companies released the funds from freeze status and wired the settlement. $3.2 million to my trust account. $3.2 million to Claire's. $2.4 million to Gregory's son. I met the wire confirmation with shock and gratitude. Clara embraced me, sobbing as the magnitude sank in. James stood at my side, pride and relief on his face. James, we did it. Me, we did it together. Our team, Camille, Marco, Gareth, Luke, celebrated via conference call, each raising a coffee mug in solidarity. That evening, I sat in the newly furnished living room with my parents. The furniture, once financed with the shell company theft, now stood paid for legitimately. My father raised his glass of sparkling cider. Dad, to your grandmother's memory and to family. Mom, and to Sarah for fighting for us. I felt tears sting. To Grandma Parker. Our glasses clinked. The settlement was more than money. It was justice, healing, and the restoration of trust. Update 4. In the wake of the trust distribution hearing, our celebratory relief quickly gave way to purpose. Grandma Parker's fortune, once hidden in shadowy offshore vaults, was now ours to steward. Rather than squander it on fleeting luxuries, James and I envisioned honoring her legacy through meaningful projects. We gathered in our apartment's sunlit dining room, drafting an agenda. Me. First, establish the Whitaker Family Foundation to manage our scholarship fund and community grants. James. And second, start that social impact venture we always talked about, microloans for women entrepreneurs. We spent that afternoon sketching mission statements, budgets, and organizational charts. By week's end, Camille had set up the nonprofit's legal structure, and our initial board included Claire, Aunt Marlene, and 2 trusted family friends. Launching the scholarship fund. Our first initiative was the Parker Scholars Program, awarding $50,000 annually in renewable scholarships to first-generation college students in underserved communities. We partnered with 3 universities Grandma attended or supported, hosting a launch gala at her beloved alma mater's old library. That evening, the library's stained glass windows glowed as donors, faculty, and students gathered. I delivered the keynote. Me. My grandmother believed education changes destinies. Today, we restore her faith in our family's promise, turning reclaimed funds into lifelong opportunities. Applause rippled through the crowd. I saw Claire wipe tears as our first scholar, Maria Rodriguez, stood to speak. Maria, as the first in my family to attend college, this scholarship lifts a weight I've carried for years. Thank you for believing in me. Her words echoed Grandma Parker's own mentorship. The gala raised additional funds, bringing our endowment to $750,000 in its inaugural night. Next came Parker Microfinance, a program providing low-interest microloans and business training to women in rural and urban areas. James, leveraging his corporate connections, secured partnerships with local NGOs and tech incubators. Our pilot cohort included 10 entrepreneurs who received $5,000 loans, mentorship, and access to co-working spaces. One success story was Layla Hassan, who used her loan to expand a homegrown textile business. When James and I visited her workshop, a modest storefront alive with vibrant fabrics, Layla greeted us. "Layla, I was ready to close shop. This loan saved my dream." Seeing the tangible impact of Grandma's fortune restored gave me a profound sense of justice. The inheritance heist that stole our future had now become a wellspring of empowerment for others. Despite our philanthropic strides, Gregory Whitaker lurked on the periphery. He had agreed to cooperate with restitution but remained estranged. One afternoon, Claire received a curt email from him requesting a meeting at his downtown office, ostensibly to discuss family matters. I joined Claire in the high-rise lobby. Gregory waited, cool and guarded. "Gregory, thank you for coming." Claire and I followed him to a glass-walled conference room. He sat behind an imposing mahogany desk. "Gregory, I've reviewed the Foundation's activities. You're doing good work." His rare praise surprised me. He continued, voice measured. "Gregory, I've been considering rejoining the family venture. I want to offer access to my corporate network, investment channels for the Foundation." Claire leaned forward. "Why now?" "Gregory, I see what you've built. The scholarship, microfinance. I want in." I exchanged a glance with Claire. After all he'd done, could we trust him? Me. "We appreciate the offer, but trust must be earned." Gregory, "I understand. I'm prepared to serve on the board, with no compensation." He placed an envelope on the desk. Inside were letters of support from 2 major philanthropists and an additional $500,000 unrestricted grant, money from his own funds. "Gregory, I want to start making amends." Silence stretched. Finally, Claire spoke. "Claire, we need time to consider. We'll discuss this at our next board meeting." Gregory nodded and left. As the elevator doors closed, James exhaled beside me. "James, that was unexpected." Me, "It was a genuine offer, or another move." James, "Time will tell." Strengthening governance. Back at our Foundation's headquarters, the board convened to debate Gregory's proposal. After robust discussion, we passed a cautious resolution. Advisory role only. Gregory may join as an unpaid advisor, with no vote on scholarship or microloan decisions. Conflicts of interest policy. Any potential conflict, familial, financial, or otherwise, must be transparently disclosed. Probationary period. Gregory's position is subject to review after 1 year, based on adherence to our governance standards. Gregory accepted these terms in writing. The board's decision balanced inclusion with safeguards, allowing him to participate without compromising accountability. Months later, we marked the first anniversary of the trust distribution hearing with a family reunion at Grandma's country estate. The manor, once quiet, buzzed with laughter. Children exploring rose gardens, board members touring the newly built learning center, and Gregory chatting with Maria and Layla about life lessons. I found Gregory on the veranda, sunset painting the sky in amber hues. Me, "You look at peace." Gregory, "I am. Seeing what we've built, it's humbling." Me, "Thank you for supporting us." He nodded, eyes reflecting the dying light. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." In that moment, the $1,000,000 lies had been replaced by $1,000,000 legacies, an inheritance not of greed, but of hope. Update 5. A year after our first gala, the Whitaker Family Foundation's impact was undeniable. Parker Scholars had grown to 25 recipients, with 10 more women joining the entrepreneurial program. Yet our crowning achievement was the Grandmother's Legacy Learning Center, a refurbished wing of the old manor transformed into a free after-school hub for STEM workshops, financial literacy classes, and art therapy sessions. On reopening day, families streamed through the doors, children in hand, grandparents in tow. The air buzzed with excitement as volunteers guided kids through coding demos and poetry readings under the grand oaks outside. Journalists snapped photos, Sarah in a bright blazer, Claire with a clipboard, James greeting donors alongside program alumni. I stood at the entrance, heart full, as the first group of Parker scholars emerged from a robotics lab. Their eyes sparkled with newfound confidence. Among them was Maria Rodriguez, now a sophomore engineering major. "Maria, this center is more than books. It's a second home." Tears pricked my eyes. Grandma Parker's fortune, once stolen in a labyrinth of lies, had been reborn as a beacon of opportunity. After the ribbon cutting, I slipped away to the rose garden with Gregory. The late afternoon sun painted petals gold as we strolled along the gravel paths. Gregory: "I've watched from the sidelines, waiting to see if this would last." Me: "It's thriving." He nodded, glancing at the new wing. "Your determination turned my betrayal into something beautiful. I'm proud, honored to be part of it." Me: "You've earned your place." He paused, hand-brushing a rose. "Thank you for forgiveness." Later that evening, I climbed the attic stairs where this journey began. Moonlight filtered through dusty windows, illuminating trunks and boxes of family memories. I found the sealed envelope, now empty, where the Caymans statement once lay. I set it on an old chest and surveyed the chamber. I pondered the twists, from that moment of discovery, through global probes and courtroom duels, to the Foundation's rebirth. The attic, once a vault of secrets, now felt like a shrine to transparency and legacy. That night, James and I hosted an intimate dinner in the Manor's dining room. Crystal chandeliers glinted above a table set with heirloom china. As we shared a toast, he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. "James, when we first got engaged, it was about dreams and diamonds. Now, I know love is about weathering storms together." He opened the box to reveal a simple band engraved with our initials and the date of the trust distribution hearing. "James, will you marry me?" "Again?" Tears blurred my vision. Yes, more than ever. We embraced as candlelight danced across the walls, sealing our partnership forged in truth and resilience. In the following months, the Foundation's programs expanded: mobile STEM labs for rural schools, microfinance chapters in 2 new cities, and a traveling exhibition showcasing Parker Scholars projects. Gregory, serving as an advisor, helped secure corporate match funding, mending his reputation through genuine service. At a board retreat in spring, Aunt Marlene reflected. "Marlene, Grandma's legacy isn't an account balance. It's the lives we uplift." We nodded in agreement, united not by blood alone but by shared vision and integrity. In the end, the million-dollar lies were eclipsed by million-dollar legacies, reminders that truth, compassion, and courage can turn the darkest betrayals into enduring beacons of progress.